My mother had placed a tape recorder in every room of our apartment. They were cheap and easy to find at second-hand stores, as were the tapes. When she brought them home, she tried to hide them by placing one piece of folded white paper over each device like a little tent. Each room with its white paper tent. She had started buying them weeks before that phone conversation with Aunt Min, and when we were in a room together, she would casually drift over to the tent and sneak a finger underneath to find a button and press record. Then she'd make breakfast, or play cards with me, or we'd watch Toy Story 2, or I'd do my homework. I understood implicitly that they were not to be discussed, that I was to think the little white tent was an actual cover, and her pressing of the button invisible to me. I suppose I liked the idea of a shared secret, even if she did not know I shared it. In fact, had she looked carefully, my mother might have seen a few more white tents on appliances in my bedroom as a tribute. A white piece of paper over the clock radio, a white piece of paper folded over a broken camera. This field of tents, this camping ground of our home. In the other rooms, we would play our games and eat our meals, and I grew used to the rubbery click of a cassette running out, a button upending as the closing point of most activities. At some point, while I was at school or asleep, she must have flipped the tapes, but I never saw that part. They were always prepped and ready to go. When the volunteer mothers from my school were packing up the apartment and going through her and my things, they mentioned nothing to Aunt Min about any bag full of labeled cassettes, any grand plan documentary, which was not a surprise. Mom just wasn't generally that organized. I never ended up asking her about them, but it didn't seem like a long-term project. More like she wanted some proof in case I did something bad. And, as I think of it now, probably keeping an ear on herself, too. Before those volunteer mothers arrived, when I was gathering a few of my own things to take with me before I went to live with my aunt and uncle in their home in Burbank, California, I lifted each little tent like the box top of a present and took the tape recorders, slid each one into my purple drawstring bag, along with a stuffed brown bunny I didn't really care about, and some word search books in which I had already found all the words. I had no idea what to bring. The scrim of meaning had floated off of everything. I brought the recorders with me on the train for 2 days, and then into the car and up the walkway to my new home on the quiet street of well-tended lawns and a bright blue tire swing across the road hanging from the gnarled branch of an oak tree. Supposedly, when I rang the doorbell and my aunt answered, holding a tiny, fretting, brand-new infant in her arms, hair frizzed, face etched, I pointed to myself and said, "Francie." It was the most heartbreaking thing in the world, she told me years later, pressing my hand, as if we were acquaintances at a party. That morning, she hugged and kissed me as she led me up the stairs. My room was to be at the top of the staircase, with windows that looked out upon the street and a faint odor of yoga mats. It had been previously used as an exercise room and an office, and so all the equipment had been shoved to one side, shrouded by a few old green sheets, and by the closet they'd set up a futon draped in a too large comforter and a nightstand made of a packing box covered by a towel. She had no spare reading lamp, so she'd placed an industrial flashlight on the towel in case I liked to read at night. "I'm so sorry," she said, bouncing the baby, who was wrapped in a blanket. "We'll get this into shape. We just have been so consumed." "I like the flashlight," I said. "We'll go online. We'll order whatever you like." "What is the baby's name?" I asked, still standing in the doorframe. She blushed. Her eyes seemed to have constant water in them, a vivid, hydrated health. She looked nothing like my mother. "Vicky," she said. "Your cousin Vicky. Or maybe your sister?" "Cousin is good," I said, holding out a finger, which the baby grabbed.